Sorry about the wind. I'm going to try to shield it if I can, but I'm out here today. We're going to try to get this carved out and set to the elevation we need it. This is what we used to call our junkyard. We're going to make this into a greenhouse pad if we can. Right about over here at this stake, we're going to carve from there across to right here at this stake. Just kind of straight line that, and then what little bit of dirt is there is going to come off the hill, but then we're also going to bring this elevation of this pad down by about 3 feet based on like GPS elevations and flying the drone and using it as an elevation gauge, a few things like that. We should be maybe 5 or 10 feet lower elevation than our water tanks over there. It is low enough that we could gravity get water here, and with using a charge pump for the pressures on the drip systems, we could use that out here and be able to have pressurized water to the drip system as needed. So I want to make sure that this spot is definitely lower, so I'm going to bring this down probably 3 feet. Down here where the road comes up, I don't want to get too low because I've still got to transition from the road to the pad and have access to get up to this other part of the road for farm access. So I don't want to get too crazy with the elevations, but I think 3 feet should bring me down into about this point. We should be about 3 feet low here. I'm going to quickly measure a couple of spots, and I'll probably just to shortcut this, make this a quick, easy, fast thing. I'm going to measure a couple of spots that are the appropriate height, mark those on the ground, and use those as a reference point. Once I've got them marked, I will, in the excavator, take from that point a flat pull, so I know right there is flat, right here is flat, at a few spots like that, just so I can use those as an easy gauge. Then I'm just going to go to ripping and tearing and try to get this thing hogged out and pushed out so that it can settle. Try to get some preparations for a greenhouse pad out here eventually. I think we should be able to get out to that width pretty easily. So my target over here is going to be not necessarily trying to get up to this elevation immediately. It's going to more to shoot for this elevation. We're going to be somewhere in the middle of that. We're going to take all this stuff out. All right, let's get digging this thing and see what we can do. As this widens out and I start digging that hill, I'm going to have to reach back there, spin and put it, and I may not have enough room to reach all the way out and set it. So I may have to set it on the pad that I'm making and then push it off. And if that's the case, it's real easy to get lost. So having these reference points is going to make it easy for me to get started digging and moving dirt. I'm also trying pretty hard to make sure that I don't let any rocks or boulders go running. A couple of those take off running, they're going to not stop for a while. Set that down there carefully so it doesn't take off running. And I'm just adding an extra scoop or two of dirt downhill of that rock and to the side of that rock. Now I'm just going to connect the dots on these first two and establish the first little shelf at the right elevation, because they're only about 18 feet apart, those two spots. Now that I've got that, I can come in and keep my blade on that shelf, start carving into the old roadway. Then I'm going to basically be sitting on a flat pad. And as I sit on a flat pad, now I can really dig. Still got a few hours of daylight. I still have plenty of other things to do tonight, but I just needed this done, so we're gonna go like crazy, see how quickly I can get done. I'm gonna give myself an hour and a half and see how good I can get it in an hour and a half. If I don't shut down by then, it's be too late and I'll be way behind even farther on other things. So let's just see what we can do in that time. Right now, I'm not even terribly worried about getting everything as flat and even. I'm going to blade over this after I've cut it. I'm really just trying to get to a rough grade, get most of the material put where it needs to be. That's one thing when I get that dozer going that I'm going to have to wrap my head around the difference in operation is figuring out the art of pushing the dirt there, I guess, versus picking it up and placing it. And now I'm right even with the stake here at the cap. I've got a pretty good pile in front of my blade that I pushed up just to get into here, but I can reach the next little flat checkpoint. So now I'm going to reach from that one straight up to me and keeping it even cut. As I make that shelf down the outside edge, then take a bucket wider and a bucket wider and work it back and work it back. And that saves me a lot of time when I'm by myself, which is most of the time when it comes to this kind of stuff. And there's our starting mark, right down to there. Sometimes I need to come back across the back of that and just clean up a little bit, almost like a clean sweep. Make sure that my machine is staying flat at the elevation that I want it. So I'm kind of pulling a cross angle, doing that just so that I'm using as many points of reference for elevation as I can. Plus I need it to all come downhill, so I guess there's that too. By Little Rock, that one's about a 22-inch rock. Seems big. The whole thing is fit inside of the bucket without even trying. I've done a lot of boulder walls, and I keep thinking about that every time. I think anytime that Ola and I have a conversation about the uphill side of a cut that we make, and she's like, "Oh, you could just put some boulders in there and just put a boulder wall up there. It'd look great." And I think, yeah, it would look great. Where the heck am I going to get that many boulders? They're all over the place. See, here's one. And I go, where's the other 340 of that size that's going to take to do a 6-foot wall? You get building boulder walls and get putting them together, you start seeing what that size looks like on the ground in the bucket, and then finally in the wall. And you realize just how small some of these big rocks everybody sees is. They're not boulder wall necessarily, they're just big old rocks. There's a big difference. It's surprising. We moved a whole bunch of boulders and rocks and stuff when we were doing the front flower bed last year, and that's on Ola's channel on the Mount Maplewood Cider Ranch. As I'm lining up the rocks for the flower bed, at some point there I just get out of the machine and I'm just moving them by hand. Sometimes it's just easier to get out there and move them. I'm starting to get just about wide enough. I push the dirt forward as I'm pushing along, and I kind of just work it off the edge a little bit. If it builds up too much, I back up, push the pile sideways, and then I can push forward and keep going. But that becomes harder to do because the dirt's way uphill that I'm trying to push, and I gotta pull it all down here into a pile in front of me, and then try to work it back and forth, going off the hill with it. And it just becomes easier to refine the pad so that I can start pushing directly to the downhill side, directly pushing it off. Alright, so I can tell, I can see where my line is here and my points of reference. We're definitely still about 6 or 7 inches high on that uphill side, but we're a little low on the downhill side in a couple spots. All of that's going to even out just fine as we keep cutting. Just kind of design it by eye. Design on the fly. We might get this roughed in here in our little time window that we had. I have no idea where my batteries died. on this camera or not, so I don't know what it all showed, but that's where we got. Now I'm on a roll. I want to just keep going, but I got to stop for the night. It's just how it goes. It's a lot bigger, a lot wider. This is looking great. Got a lot of material right in here, these two little pockets that need to come out, get moved off of here. And then right in here, we're going to start making a transition for this road here. One thing about this road is I got a lot of room on this uphill side to actually move the road uphill quite a ways. And you can see it kind of steps sideways and back over there. And I am going to straighten this out because ultimately this is going to be the main access point to continue on out on the property. So I'm going to take all of that material out of here too that sticks out right here around this point. That's all going to come out and work its way along this edge here to make sure that that shoulder is nice and sloped and good. And then I've got to make this transition here slope out, meet to this, to the maples there. So there's a little bit of material that's going to come out of here. The rest is going to be shaping. And then this elevation up here, right out here, you can see I got this where the boulder is. I've got like my laser and stuff. So back just a little ways into that, maybe another 15 feet. I'm going to start from there and transition down to this elevation so that that will kind of ramp up going up to that upper one, be even onto the lower one, and then come all the way around here. There's still plenty of material to push off of that side, especially when I start taking off of here and taking that out. So it's a good cut for, I don't know, just over an hour, about an hour and 15. Pretty good cut so far. Tomorrow we'll do more. All right, we are back at it. Try to see if we can get finished with the rough cut here in the next hour or so. Got a lot of things on the agenda today, like always, I guess, but if I can finish this rough cut, we can move on to things that still need to be finished up. Otherwise, everybody else is getting ready for the morning, going through their things that need doing for a minute. I figured I'd take advantage of being alone to try to get this wrapped up. So right now I'm out where the roads are going to transition together. Kind of right where I stopped yesterday. The first tier is the one that was originally cut to match to this grade, to this pad. I knew we were going to burn through a lot of material trying to build this out, which was one of the reasons why I wanted to lower the elevation a little bit. A lot of changes to the farm this year on excavation. The thing is that we've been spending a lot of time and money on that shop and getting things prepared, which has been a very, very much a necessity. And this year we need to do a lot of things, and mostly we need to do a lot of things that don't necessarily have a lot of direct materials cost. The materials expenses need to go to finishing up the shop and the spaces there, so that's where our budget's going. Most of this kind of stuff is time and fuel budget, and that's about it, really. We're not ready to build the greenhouse out here yet, but we get the excavation work and the pad built, and space made and created, then we can go to putting some of the infrastructure in that would be necessary for it. The water supply, the irrigation in or out, some of those kind of base level things. Because building a life is not cheap. Building a farm, any of this. Well, and I have talked about it many times that this is probably the most expensive way to try to figure out a way to farm a few animals for your own meat and a few things. The side hill of the mountain is not the best location to do that. And we didn't seek out this property with the intention of turning it into a farm. We sought out this property with the intentions of having a weekend getaway that we own, that we could come to and spend time. We've done that over the years, really enjoyed it. And now, because we own the property, we wanted to move up here to slow down our pace of life a little bit. I say that even though we're busy and we're working up here non-stop, time still slows down up here comparatively. Get done working up here for the day, and it might be like last night by the time I called it quits here digging, and then we went and tended to the farm animals. By the time we did all that stuff and got back to the house, it was, I don't know, it was 8:30, 9 o'clock. And then I stayed up editing a video for a little while, and still felt like we had 4 or 5 hours of time in the evening after stopping. But hopefully we'll do all this work and we'll be able to enjoy it for a lot of years. If we do it right, somebody else will be able to enjoy it after us for a lifetime too. Once I get most of this hawked out, I'm going to go up on top there of this top tier, and I will work that from the other direction so that I can scrape through and move most of the material, and then I can use the blade and kind of bulldoze out a ramp, if you will. We need to be able to get in there easily with tractor, ranger, whatever we need to. I don't want an abrupt change in direction, and I don't want a very steep change in elevation either. I want it to be gradual enough that it's no big deal. Alright, so now I'm cutting in by the stake, and I'm making, instead of making a more vertical cut in, I'm making more of a sloped cut through the topsoil layer. And I'm shooting for about that 35 degrees slope or so through the topsoil, back to my cut line that I marked out. And I'm seeing how far, at that angle, how far that gets me until I see the topsoil go away and the thin clay layer show up. We ripped through that a whole bunch. Got quite a spoils pile at the base of the cut. So, switch back to the bucket. Line up my blade. We're just going to hog into all this that we've loosened out. Start throwing it over the side. All right, we are gonna call that done. Sorry about the wind, it's just really windy today. It's what it is. But man, that turned out great. We have so much room up here now. There'll be some more refinement, but I'm gonna call that a rough cut and complete. I haven't measured this yet to see how it ended up, but we're probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 35 or 40 from the uphill side here to the downhill side at the widest point here. Let me pace it off. Yeah, I'm pacing out about 45 feet at this widest spot, and about 55 or 60 to the open width that we talked about keeping accessible. We can put our greenhouse space right here in this space, and that leaves us a lot of room for a greenhouse and a prep room and stuff like that. You can still pull up to here just fine. You can be able to drive around this side and access everything, and we could put a nice little greenhouse here. I say little, but we're talking what could easily fit there somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 by 30, 20 by 35, maybe 20 by 40. Ola and I are headed up to the greenhouse pad so that she can take a look at it. She's been busy chasing all kinds of other things today and yesterday. Yesterday she worked, so she hasn't seen it yet. We talk about these things and we try to like put down some paint and show her what it looks like, where it's gonna be, how it's gonna look. And every time we go out and look at it after I do the work, she's always like shocked and astonished at the size and the scope of what I've done. like it came out of nowhere. And
yeah, the crazy part is like we discuss it all the time. Like we talk about the scope of it, the measurements. We go out there and measure it. It looked like this, it looked like that. But until it's like actually built, I have no clue.
She doesn't get it until she sees it.
Oh. Look at that! Honey! Mark! Get me out of this thing. Let me see that.
See? She's completely astonished.
Gosh. How big can I have my greenhouse?
Well, big enough to get around, so like...
Is that why you got the claw out? Is because of this?
Yeah, this is all sandstone here. I was 5-6 feet of sandstone in there.
Now, was it hard to like dig and stuff, or was it like still okay?
Well, it's fine. It's the same as it always is.
Holy crap, this is huge. That is no joke.
Yeah.
We can even have a little bit.
You could go from the stake up to here and have plenty of room to drive past and around, and yeah, I mean it could be big.
Oh my gosh.
Probably like 15 or 20 by 30 or 40. I haven't measured it yet, but
I think it looks like 40 by 100.
It's not that, but
no.
I mean, you need a room here, so I mean you could probably come to here and you could have some greenhouse space all the way to the front of the Ranger.
You sure can.
And to the stake. So I mean, that's enough space to do that and still have room around to be able to drive past.
This is so neat. Oh, this is so neat. Holy crap. That is the fact that you were able to gain. And that drive wasn't bad. You dropped it down 3 feet, you said, or 2 feet?
3 feet from the original.
Oh,
yeah.
Great. And look, eye level on the orchard part. All eye level. You don't have to even go too far.
Yeah, it's all easy access and it's not
nothing
super steep to get to. Well, I think she approves.
I love it.
We're in good shape. Now we can start designing and planning what's going to fit.
We have to let this settle now because we can't really touch it for a year.
Well, we don't have the funding to build anything yet.
No.
But now we've got the space prepared and we can do the water line and we can then work towards it. Now we know what we can.
Planted, the water line, all the things. Yeah.
Now we know what the space is, and we know what we can work with. So.
And it's actually way more than I expected, just like always. And it really is. It's like, holy crap, this is gonna be awesome. Now I gotta start looking at designs and start planning it.
Yep.
Yep.
I agree.
Yep.
Pretty cool.
Yep.